What if I told you that there's a chance that one day our planet will just stop rotating? And when I say stop, I don't mean it'll flip upside down or something like that. I mean it literally won't rotate on its axis for 60 seconds. For some people, this might seem like a bit of fun. You could theoretically run across the United States faster than Usain Bolt, but in reality, this would be the end of the world as we know it. Even just a minute without rotation would have some pretty terrifying consequences. Earth is able to rotate at 900 miles per hour at the equator. That means that if the planet suddenly stopped rotating, everything on it would continue to move forward at that speed. Cars would continue driving, planes would continue flying, and people would continue walking, all due to inertia. In other words, everything would continue to move as it was before the planet stopped. This would cause all sorts of chaos. Planes would fly right off their courses. Cars would skid off the road. People would be flung off cliffs. There would be no more gravity, just free fall. And that's just for starters. Now let's look at what would happen to the atmosphere. Our planet's rotation causes winds to form as gases in the atmosphere are carried along Earth's surface. Without rotation, these winds would cease to exist. Hot and cold air would no longer be mixed, which means no more weather. But that's not even the worst part. Earth's rotation also causes the planet to bulge at the equator. If it stopped rotating, the shape of the planet would change, and the oceans would no longer be able to cover the land equally on all sides. About 2/3 of the planet's land would be submerged underwater, meaning that many major cities, such as London, New York, and Sydney, would be completely destroyed. Many more would be partially submerged, causing widespread flooding. But what would happen to the people who survived the initial destruction? Not much would change for them initially. They would still experience day and night as they had before. But after a while, they would start to notice that the sun never quite made it all the way up in the sky. Without Earth's rotation, the sun would only ever reach an angle of 78 degrees, meaning that the entire planet would exist in a state of perpetual twilight. At certain points during the year, parts of the planet would even fall into darkness for weeks at a time. It would be winter in those regions, and the sun would only rise again when the Earth began to rotate once more. But even if you managed to survive the initial destruction, the changing climate, and the struggle to find food and water, you wouldn't last long. That's because the Earth's rotation also causes the tides. Without the rotation, the tides would cease to exist. This would have a devastating impact on the planet's entire ecosystem. But perhaps even worse would be the fact that no more ocean currents would exist. Ocean currents are driven by a number of factors, but Earth's rotation is one of the main ones. Without it, the currents would slow dramatically. Warm water would no longer be transported from the equator to the poles. And since colder water is denser, it would sink and then travel back towards the equator, causing massive ice sheets to form at the poles. But even if you managed to survive all of that, you still wouldn't make it. After a few million years, Earth's orbit would decay and the planet would literally fall into the sun. Okay, so maybe it's a good thing that our planet rotates. But how fast is it actually rotating? Well, the equatorial region of Earth rotates at about 900 miles per hour, which is about 1,500 kilometers per hour. That means that if Earth were to suddenly stop rotating, everything on it would continue to move forward at these speeds. So if you were standing at the equator, you would continue running to the east at 1,500 kilometers per hour. If you were standing at 45 degrees north or south latitude, you'd continue moving at about 1,000 miles per hour, or about 1,600 kilometers per hour. And if you were standing at one of the poles, you'd basically be in for a very unpleasant surprise. That's because at the poles, the ground would suddenly come to a complete stop. But everything else would continue to move forward at 900 miles per hour. In other words, everything would be pulled towards the equator. So yeah, let's just hope that our planet doesn't stop rotating anytime soon. Thanks for watching Parallelish, where imagination bends reality. I'm Nova, your guide through the unknown. Want to explore more timelines? tap the playlist above and keep diving into the what ifs. Until next time, stay curious.